I hope your day is full of sand and sand castles and crabs and sand fleas and seaweed and sea anemones and sea urchins and mermaids. I know those are fake, but fuck it. I'm having one of those days. It has been a journey, guys. I have an amazing episode for you on this Wednesday with the one, the only Mat Edgar. But before we get into this week's episode, I first of all want to start off by letting you guys know that I was hacked on Instagram. It was a wild weekend. My Instagram account was being held ransom for $500 Bitcoin. More on that soon. You can see I live tweeted the whole experience, so you can look at it at Princess Shank on Twitter. Guys, I can't thank you enough for continuing to watch the show, for telling your friends about the show. Would love for you guys to check out the merch I have. Hot merch dropped. There's a link to it in the description of this episode. And yeah, this episode's fun. I sit down with Mat Edgar and we talk really a lot about stand-up, which is so fun to do. I so rarely talk about stand-up in depth. And Matt just really loves the craft of stand-up, so it was just fun to be able to have those conversations with him. He's a super talented comic. Definitely check out his album. I will link to that in the description of this episode as well. Follow him, give him some support. Guys, look down at your feet right now. Are your feet exposed? Why? Cover them. Cover up your toes unless you're getting paid. That's what I always say. Cover up those feet unless you're getting paid with a treat. That being said, guys, you need socks. They make great gifts. You know someone in your life and you're like, I bet they don't replace their socks, because a lot of men, I gotta be honest, I don't mean to target you out, men, but a lot of men, you guys, you don't replace your socks enough. You don't replace them regularly. Socks make a great gift. Oh yeah, head to ohyeah.com. That's 3 O's HYEAH.com. Enter discount code Sara10 for 10% off. These are my personal favorite pair right now. These are Marsha socks from Oh Yeah Socks. Discount code Sara10, 10% off. A retro Brady Bunch sock. We love it. They also have really cool collaboration with the show Cheers, so you can check that out. Plus Alien Designs, Bob Ross Designs, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood Designs, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure Designs, MacGyver Designs. How many times can I say the word designs? A lot, it turns out. Guys, if you're enjoying the show, support it. Leave a review. It just takes a second to leave a review, and that's how people find out about the show. That's how I can continue growing the show. And I hope you guys enjoy this week's episode of Shank with Mat Edgar. Bye. Buy some merch. Bye.
Man, look at that. All on the iPhone.
You
can lay in bed and just make it.
Yeah. That's what I do now. I'm like, I don't need a studio. I show up with a duffel bag of shit and I say, let's the show begin. I
mean, you don't know. We could just literally we become moguls in our apartments.
Yeah. It's 2021.
This is magical. What a great time to be doing this.
What a great time to be alive. It's 2021. I'm here with Mat Edgar, comedian, friend, somebody who I should have had on the podcast a long time ago. It hit me last week that you had not been on the podcast because I was sitting with Simbari.
What is it about me that everybody's like,
You know what it is? It's because you don't ask for things. You're just so chill.
Yeah.
You know, other people, they come up to be like, can I be on your podcast?
People ask you?
People ask.
No.
Yes.
There's been people on your podcast that ask to be there.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
People message me and say, can I do your podcast? And I don't write back.
No.
Yeah.
You can't ask to be on a podcast.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you're
That'd be
just
funny if
like...
they start making like podcast managers that get you booked on all the podcasts. Like, yeah. I know somebody over at Tim Dillon.
Yeah. But like, yeah. So I'm shocked that you haven't been on my podcast because we've been friends a long time.
Honestly, it's hurt.
I'm sorry.
It's not you. It's not personal. It's like, you know, when you're like just feeling like a bitch.
Yeah.
And you just need,
when you're a comic and you're feeling like a bitch.
Self-loathing, right?
Yeah. We all have it.
And so like sometimes I'm laying there. It's 5 a.m. That weird witching hour in the morning. Am I the only one?
Yeah.
Like I feel like 5 a.m. If I happen to wake up, it's like the sun's not up, but it's, you know, it's coming.
It's coming.
And it's
down the pipeline.
It's the worst fucking. That's when I spiral. But it only lasts for about an hour. I go back to sleep and I wake up and I'm like, oh, I'm chill.
But around that time is when.
But around that time is when I'm noticing that I'm not on any of my friends' podcasts.
No.
I mean, it's a tornado of negativity. Everything's getting sucked in. Yeah.
No. Well, but the thing is, you're one of the funniest people I know. You're a super talented writer.
Well, that keeps me warm, you know, at night. I definitely think that's all that matters. So I'm pretty much, that's why it's only between 5 a.m. and then you know, the sun comes up and I'm like, all right. I'm pretty stoked on you know, well, especially now that comedy's coming back, it's like I now have things to do, and I'm that's all I cared to do during the pandemic or ever in life. So now that that's coming back, I'm just stoked. Because
first and foremost, you're like a diehard stand-up comic. You work your craft, you write all the time, you haven't given up. You still put in the same effort as people who just are starting, which is something that I think is important to address, because there's people who once they have some success, they stop and they're not working on their craft, and like you've been doing it, and it shows.
Yeah, and like, but I'm not, you know, I remember seeing, you know, Joey Diaz does mics.
Yeah, you can't be above doing mics.
And so like, why does he do that? Because he loves it. And what else are you gonna fucking do? Look at man, all I care about is doing stand-up. All I bitch about in life is more stage time. And as long as there's time happening, because dude, for a second there was no stand-up happening, there's no options. And as soon as there's anything, it's like I'm gonna go, and I'm not gonna ask. I'm not going to ask people for spots. So I'm going to pay $5 and do a fucking mic if I have to. And then get a spot for some kid that's trying out a show at some, you know, garage or whatever. And then that guy knows somebody. And next thing you know, I'm fucking doing spots.
That work ethic that separates you from a lot of other people who are in the same
field.
I
actually think that work ethic is not a thing that I was like a natural attribute. I don't even think I have really that now. I think it's the desire to get up on stage no matter what.
Totally. And also, I mean, you have great jokes, but then you're also really good in the moment.
Well, that was the first thing I was good at in stand-up.
Really?
Oh, I mean, yeah. Because, well, you know, I would bomb immediately. Anything I thought of, well, it was hard because when I started off at the store, a lot of the older guys, it was way meaner back then. There wasn't like any real regulation.
Even when I came, I was scared of everybody.
Right, but there was nobody to like check anyone back then. So like we're talking 07.
Yeah.
There's no, the talent coordinator, is Tommy, and he is he's very chill in a lot of ways, in that like it's like, let's see where it goes. And the abuse, it's like you need to see how you handle it. So I got this crash course in like bullying. You know, luckily I'm young enough to like be able to like just be humble enough. I'm 21 and everybody's like older than me by a decade.
So do you get passed when you're 21?
I got passed when I was 25.
Which is insane.
It was insane.
That is.
But that was different times. I mean,
you still got passed at 25.
Yeah, I mean, that's great for the record book that nobody gives a fuck about. But me, it's like a nice feather. But dude, the real thing is, I mean, the big fuck in it all is that I got passed first in my class of door guys. I think the only other people I would say in my class of comedy that were passed were Gerard, was always passed first everywhere. Everybody stopped competing with Gerard pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then I believe Francisco might have been passed right before me, which is interesting because we got the job as door guys together.
That's crazy.
And yeah, and then I got passed, and everybody hated it. and just to my face. I mean, it was.
They did?
Yeah, man. And you know what's crazy was I had conquered the bullying because when I first started, you know, when I'm 21, Danish and O'Neill, mostly Ryan O'Neill, it was just like, I mean, he's one of the funniest people alive.
100%.
And imagine that guy is bringing you up every Sunday and Monday in your first couple of years, and he just loves
fucking with you,
man. And he's so good at it that he would kill. And then I have to go try to do my dumb jokes that I don't even. There's no other way to get them than really talk to them and be in the moment and learn how to bob and weave the O'Neill onslaught before I can even begin. Mind you, we have 3 minutes to work with. Yeah. So it's like I had to learn to like get them quick.
Right.
After that, it was just really hard. And then and also I don't want to bash weed or anything because I love weed now. I mean, we're currently high off
off the pot.
And I wasn't smoking weed back then. I actually didn't have any drink before I went on stage. No performance enhancing drugs for the first 5 years. As a micer, as a beginner,
which is pretty gnarly.
Well, it was nervousness. I knew that I would have to eventually. I'd have to conquer.
Well, for me, I had the opposite experience. I would like be drunk when I first started because I was so scared. Yeah. But now I don't drink or really smoke before I set. I try not to.
And it's probably way better.
It's way better.
Well, yeah. I mean, you need the nervousness. Like people think they don't. You run from nervousness because it's uncomfortable. But really, the only thing that nervousness is energy.
That's a good point.
And when you really get comfortable with the nervousness, you learn how to
channel it.
You could change the energy.
Until like I tell myself when I'm nervous that I'm really excited because it's a similar feeling.
I always go. You condense it to excitement.
Yes.
And that turns into a focus because you're there. And it's kind of like I think this is even biological at some point that like if you are more like. If you are more nervous and you're in that that excitement energy, you're making better choices quicker. Your brain's working more efficiently.
Yes.
So like,
you're testing your impulses.
In stand-up comedy, it is all critical thinking. It is critical as it gets because they are right there, and you have less than a second to think of it while keeping time, while maintaining your voice that you know is this extension of yourself. It takes like the mind's eye also.
Right.
And while trying to remember your shit. It's a lot goes into it at once. You want to be all there. You need to use your whole mind while you're up there.
Yeah.
At least I do.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah. And that's just what I've learned.
It makes a big difference.
And believe me, like I love every now and then I'll fucking take the first high of the day with me on stage and go surfing. And I love that too. I get it, but it can't just be that. And again, in the first 5 years when I was the most nervous, I had to just swallow it.
Well,
swallow it whole.
That's crazy, but that makes sense.
And I got passed before everybody, so maybe there was something to do with that.
Yeah.
Because everybody else was getting high and going up on potluck and just like, I'd look at them, they just look tired.
Because you're quicker when you're not high. When I'm high, and these guys, like delayed.
Right. And it's like,
in reading
especially when you know these guys and they're funny. Like me and Tony lived together.
That's
and
crazy.
He's the funniest guy I met. And like, but on stage he would get high, not all the time, but a lot of times I would see him just like meander. Yeah. And it's like he's remembering, and I'm just like, he's so much better. But I know it's because he's just been fucking ripping it all day and just right up until he went up on stage.
See, it's so interesting though, because I can write high. Can you write high? I like writing high.
I can punch high, yeah.
Yeah. Like I feel like some of the most creative, best punchlines I got when I was stoned. But I cannot perform it high. What is your writing process? Are you writing and then working it out on stage? Are you writing and then working out on mics? Or what do you feel works the best for you? Because like I want to talk to you about a lot of stand-up stuff because I know it makes you excited to talk about it. And
well, for one, I think writing stand-up is more about, it's more noticing what is funny to talk to that could work up on stage. It's more the eye. It's more you're like seeing it. You see it through life. It's not like to me, it's not a sit down and write thing. It's keeping that funny mind's eye with me everywhere I go and seeing life through that lens and getting good at maintaining that lens no matter what, no matter depressed, no matter anything I'm going through. As I when something happens in front of me, I recognize like, oh,
that's hilarious.
That's a bit.
Right.
And then I take that to some daytime mic where I will pay $5 in front of other comedians that did the same. Everybody in that room cares enough to be there to do that. So I'm down. I respect every soul in that room for showing up. Which
is a really good point to make. Because you mentioned that earlier about how we're all kind of in it together. And it feels like sometimes it can be so ego-based, so competitive. You feel like there aren't enough spots, all this stuff. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's like we're all in it together.
It's comedy.
Yeah.
It's not you.
It's like you need, and it's like the more that you lean on people who are doing the same thing as you, the more you get from the experience.
Look it, man. I've felt that way. I've been jealous. I've been bitter. I've been hateful, resentful. I've been a bitch, and nothing ever really came of that kind of mindset.
No,
I never really got better. It kept me in it because I knew my time would come, but no leaps and bounds, or nothing made me have so much fun than not really caring what anybody else is doing and recognizing comedy is what I'm doing. I'm in comedy, and those guys are too.
Yeah,
and whatever they do is what they need to do in comedy. So what do I need to do?
Right.
And that's all that matters.
Right.
And to me, it's like, where am I funniest? Where am I the funniest? And that's literally on stage. It's easier to make sense of that than anywhere else for me.
Totally.
So I got to find it. I got to just fucking get recognized or some shit. I don't know. I do stand up and people come back, and then that's all I know. I move forward, keep posting.
Well, you've been posting a lot, and I mean, you've been posting a ton of stand-up clips. What's your Instagram? At Mat Edgar? At Mat Edgar. I'll write that in the description so people will be able to find it. And you've been posting a ton of stuff. I shared one, the witch's vibrator bit. That was hilarious. That was so funny, and that was just in the moment, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, do you know who was in that was a little garage,
yeah.
Right?
So recently you performed in a garage.
Yeah, that was a garage.
It looked like really cool though.
Yeah, the lady who owned the garage souped it up to look like a showroom. It was kind of funny though, because like there's a few ingredients to make a comedy show, and people think it's just the mic and the amp.
Totally.
And I'm a big stickler for lighting. You need to have their face. You need to be able to see the face.
Totally.
And if you see this video, you'll see it's like the room. There's a lot of like there's like like strobes and like weird like color lights and like a disco ball.
Yeah.
Like it looks like this lady has no idea what a comedy show is, like how to. But she has great aesthetic and it looks awesome. There's like the drapes in the back. It's like glitter, whatever. I mean, she went all out.
It looked amazing.
And the lighting was cool in that
house?
Like it was dark enough and it made this not look like a garage. And she had the chairs set up and a DJ right here. You know,
it was crazy.
I'm just like, dude, is there any other kind of light? We need something. Like I'm thinking take a phone or do something, find a way, because I need it. And then this guy that through the show is like, oh, you know what? I have this little, I got something for work that might come. And he brought some, I don't know what he does for work or what that meant, but he brought a little spotlight you could fold into your pocket and he busted it. It's literally a spotlight with a magnet. And we just put it on the garage door opener thing.
That's dope.
And it stuck right there. And it was like, boom, we
It's so interesting how lighting makes such a big difference. Also, have you had this experience where you're lit so bright you can't read the audience? Like you can't see out into the audience.
You got to get good at that too, man.
I was like,
got to get good at that.
I was like hunching over like this, doing this. Like I felt like the whole time I had to like block out lights to connect with the audience.
Yeah, but that's why you also need to have like material. Like, look at man, I love the riffing.
Totally.
And I'm telling you, it was the first thing I was good at because I was bombing with anything else.
See, for me, it's the opposite. I'm good at the stuff that I've written and almost like a fault. Like I stick so much to the script that like I'm trying to now have more fun in the moment.
You got to, because like that's not real, man. And these people are smarter. They have access to all the great comedy. Like dude, you want to know one ingredient in stand-up live comedy that like is overlooked is humility. And that means you have to humble yourself in front of the audience too.
Yeah.
And they're not dumb. Like maybe some of them are, or maybe they're not as comedically like savvy as you, I guess. But like funny is funny, and you got to just like give them that, and that takes a kind of like you bring yourself to their level in a lot of ways. And so when you have when you have like any kind of situation in front of you, like a garage or a beach. I mean, now with COVID, I mean, I've performed everywhere, like all the different
a beach. Did you do the beach show?
I did, yeah. And
isn't that physically on the sand?
Yeah, I took my shoes and socks off. First time I did a set barefoot, I felt like Bobby Lee.
No.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Straight up. Yeah.
Where's the weirdest place you performed?
Man, the only thing I could think of is there was this I guess it was a gym, but it was like a building. It was like the whole building was the gym, and it was like, you know, multiple stories. This is in Van Nuys somewhere, and like you get to the top of the parking. Well, you enter through the gym, and you come out to the top floor of the gym. And it's just a regular gym. And then you walk around, and they have, I guess, usually, I don't know if there's ever anything they close it with, but it's out of nowhere. There's no wall. It just opens into the top of the parking lot. It's like the whole thing was just this double-decker parking lot. And it's like it ends where this gym begins. And there's a stage. And there's an audience.
When
and
was
there's a booth here where this guy's selling mushrooms. And I'm like, these are my people.
When was this?
It was cold. I remember I had a jacket on, so somewhere in probably like February. I don't know.
This year?
Yeah.
That's fucking insane.
I did a field.
A field? Have you done? I did a bowling alley.
Well, I did a bowling alley when comedy was still going on.
Yeah, when the comedy was happening. A bowling alley.
Cosmic.
Cosmic. Yeah, bowling alley shows weird.
Yeah. I mean, anything
shop, have you done that?
No tattoo shop. No.
I did a tattoo shop.
Wow.
In Orange County.
We did there's this really dope show in New York that's at a barber shop.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
Shout out to Ronnie.
Amazing, great place.
The Ronnie show.
That's actually amazing. Because people have to get their haircut anyway, and getting your haircut is fucking boring.
Well, but no, it's not. It's after hours.
Oh, cool.
I actually went back and got my haircut. It's a great spot. This dude made me look better than I've ever looked by a man.
Really?
Yeah. Anyways, so that place was dope, and that was like you can have comedy, or it just takes those ingredients. It's like you need the lighting needs to be on the face, the mic. Yeah, you need a mic and an amp, I guess. And then that's really it. I mean, it'd be nice to have a little stage. A little stage is nice. And it'd be nice if the audience was warm and comfortable. Like, I hate the cold. Like, we've done some cold shows, and that's hard. Yeah. Everybody's freezing. What do you think of the difference between a drunk audience and a high audience? Which do you prefer? You could probably have more fun with the drunk audience, but it might be a little bit harder to tame. I'm looking at the extremes. From like a heckler standpoint. I guess I'm more used to drunk audiences. But I'm also very weathered in high especially in LA now. Yeah. Well, I've always been doing like shows. Weed shows. Always. Yeah. And now it's like a lot of the shows, I feel like, a high audience, they're not gonna like yell things out necessarily. They're not even gonna yell laughs out. Yeah. And I remember the first time I performed for a high audience, I was like, okay, I know that they enjoyed it. Yeah. But it was different experience than performing for a drunk audience. Yeah. Where it's like your inhibitions are less when you're drunk. So like you don't care if other people are laughing, but when you're stoned, I feel like you're more self-aware. Yeah. So you're like, I don't want to be the first person to laugh at this or the only person to laugh at this. But all we're doing is taking it personally. Yeah. All we're doing is taking it personally. It took me like doing a few high shows to realize, oh, I did well still. It's okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you also like have to like get your expectation in check. Well, that goes with all shows, but like the weed shows, you probably need to lower them a little bit more. Yeah. With any show, with any normal show, I always think like, you can't have an expectation, or else this is where the nerves really can fuck you up. Dude, all this is like learning in your mind to avoid the things that are going to fuck you up. You know what I mean? Right. That's like critical thinking. You need your whole brain for this shit. Totally. And you have to be able to react in the moment. Yeah. Because like,
Yeah.
But if you have this expectation, like you're supposed to
just
do
say
great,
your jokes,
or whatever it is, like you see it like I need to do this stuff this great because this person's here and I need to kill in front of that. I just think that's putting this what it actually is just you up there on stage and it's stand up. To everyone else, it's stand-up show. To you, you're making it this other thing, and it's gonna make you make choices, or could make you make choices that fuck you up and take you out of what's really happening, and that's bad.
Yeah, so it's a lot of mental gymnastics,
right? So like with expectation, you would keep that straight at the fucking just right there is what it's not gonna be good, it's not gonna be bad, it is
totally. And also just okay, because there's the expectation, and then there's the I'm not where I should be. So and so has this. I don't have this.
Right. But
then maybe since you're in comedy, you have some type of mental health imbalance. You know, like there's all these like factors. So it's like constantly juggling.
Yes.
It's like constantly juggling, and that's why I think it's really important to like find your people who you can connect with in comedy and in the scene, who kind of keep you like help you keep your head on straight, because other times, because it gets to be a lot. It can be a lot. Yeah. You know, like,
well, yeah,
it's the best thing in the world, but it also it's taxing.
You got to I talk about this with Rachel all the time. It's like you have to fuck with the people who fuck with you. Totally. That's it. Totally. Just the people who fuck with you. Totally. And I don't think that asking, and look at, man, I could be wrong, and I don't get all the spots, and I see a lot of people get spots. So asking, we all have our approaches. Right. And if you feel better that way, I'm not taking away from you being funny or not. I'm just saying it's the approach at this thing that, in my opinion, is very sacred and has been there longer than me and will be here longer. And I'm just this piece in it right now. And I think this is just the philosophy. The way I look at it is like, my job is to move it forward in the time I have. Totally. And I can't look more into it, or else I will get mad and bitter and jealous and all the stuff. But as long as I'm going up, I feel good. Yeah, it makes such a big difference. It's like, I feel like, I don't know if this is what I would imagine it be like to be like an athlete who trains and then doesn't train. Like, if you're a baseball player and you have to practice baseball. If you're a basketball player, you have to practice basketball all of the time. That's why if you take like a month off, you're going to be out of shape. It's the same thing. So it was so jarring to go from doing comedy almost every night, or like 4 to 5 nights a week, to none. I felt with the start of the pandemic, I was insane. I was hula hooping on live stream on the fucking internet. I was like, people were like tipping me to hula hoop. We all have our ways to cope. It was just like very bizarre. I remember you and Wolf got mics. You guys were like walking around the house with mics. We turned the loft into a comedy club. Oh yeah, you guys had like balloons. Like, you want to come to a spot? We even put names on the wall. We didn't even get past yet. No. So, Dane Cook was on there. No, Dane Cook was on there. Yeah, I passed him because he's like one of my fit. Yeah, I passed Dane. You could come by anytime, Dane. We always got a spot for you. If Jamie ever kicks you out of the factory again, I got your home. It's my home. It's hilarious. It's my amazing. Casa, your stage. Dane Cook. You guys passed Dane Cook and that's it? You guys didn't even pass it? We passed Dane Cook and Jeff Garland, because that's it. Yeah. That's hilarious. Right. So I don't even think Jeff was ever going to show up. You're like, well, you always have a place here, Jeff, if you decide. Yeah. That's hilarious. No, I mean, it was hard to deal with. But look I think of it more as it was like an exercise in like like, this is the thing I'm so used to. I've never done anything longer than this. It's gone. What can I do to continue to improve without it? And I wrapped my mind around it. And the only thing I had was that I've recorded every single set I've ever done. So all I did was listen to my sets. Ooh, let's talk about that. Yeah. Because that, I think, is one of the hardest things to do. I think it's one of the most valuable things to do, because you can see where you have to cut the fat, or you can see why something doesn't work. But what about, for me, I don't know if you feel like this, what about
it's really hard for me to watch myself.
Well,
especially watching yourself too.
Yeah, but you gotta think about it. It's like if you expect them to take you in, how can you not take you in? Like you got to be cool with it before you expect them to be cool with it.
Yeah, it's like if you don't want to be naked, how can you hook up with someone?
It's showmanship.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's like I look at doing stand up like fucking.
Yeah, totally.
No, it's like there's a level of showmanship. It's that I need to know for a fact that the show they're going to see is worth being there. And if they're paying, like that's a whole other level. But at a minimum, the fact that they're there watching and I have all the attention in their universes, like I'm the one in that moment, it's on me to make sure the performance is as great and perfect as possible, which it wouldn't be. So, might as well try to make it as not embarrassing as possible. And I did that from listening to everything I did wrong. Right. And I still do. I mean, now I film everything as I'm posting the clips.
Filming everything's interesting.
And so now I'm actually watching. I went from hearing it all and like finding the little nuances that either needed to be there or didn't, or needed more of or needed less of, and finding that it's a lot of nuance. It's such little ways you speak that you don't even know. That's why it takes so long. It's just gathering all this information
totally. Or sometimes I do this thing where I didn't realize it until I was watching back my set, where I say thank you and it buys me a little bit of time, and it works a lot of times, but sometimes I say it too much. Yeah. Or sometimes there's an I know that I'm saying something to buy time to think of my next joke. Yep. And it's like, just get to what you're going to say. Or just be in the moment.
Or just breathe.
Yeah, the power of silence too.
Breathe. Silence is tension up there. And look at, man, we're all it's all tension that we're fucking with, everyone. That's the big illusion. If you want to know what a joke is, it's tension. It's the setup is the tension,
like the beat
and
dropping.
The punchline is the release.
Yeah, it's like when the beat drops in dubstep.
Yeah, and what exactly?
I never really have compared the two. I'm not like a big dubstep person.
I think another thing in comedy is like we speak in metaphors, and everything is like something else.
Totally,
everything is like something else. An analogy, right? So like that is like that.
Were you always good at analogies?
My dad pretty much only speaks in analogies. And
my dad speaks in analogies too.
He's also a public speaker, and so I always watched him do it live.
That's interesting. My dad's a lawyer, and I watched him speak, and I listened to him like dictate things into his like recording, and then he would play it back and like send it to someone to type. And I just remember like the way he would like time everything and say everything. And it's interesting how you can inherit those things from a parent and it can manifest in such a different way, but it's still the same skill set.
And it's like when it's embedded in you, like as a kid, like that's just the way life is. Like, I didn't live with my dad until I was 12. So, but the first 12 years, every other weekend, he'd come pick me up, take me to Long Beach. And it was like an hour-and-a-half drive. And we would just tell stories and talk. And as a little kid, my earliest memories of it's always when the sun is going down on a Friday. It's like, I waited 2 weeks for this. I get to go be with my dad for a week. And it's coming down and we're laughing, and he pulls over, we'll get some root beer and just keep going. And he's going to take me to Blockbuster on the way home. And we got Sega and like, but it was all metaphors. And then when I moved with him, going through high school, being a senior in high school, and at that point he had gone through a divorce. He had my stepmom, who had been my stepmom since I was 3. They got a divorce, and so me and my dad moved into this little house in the same town that we were living in, so I could stay at my high school. And that senior year was a lot of me and him. And it's senior year, so it's like an awkward time, and there's a lot of things going on. And so he was somebody I could go to. Also, my dad, very young dad. So it was like he was not old at the time. I mean, he wasn't even 40. He was barely 30.
That's crazy. When I went to college, my mom was 40. I'm like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like, how is it that you were 40 when you drove me to college? Someone said to her, "What dorm are you staying in?" And she's like, "I'm dropping off my daughter at college." She had me when she was 25.
Yeah, they're trying to like pledge her, like trying to get it. No, I just like he like had this very chill way of making sense of the world to me. So when I'd come within my real problems, whether it be girls, friends, anything, even the sex talk, like, had so many, it's like, and he would surf. He was a surfer, and he's just like, it's like, and it just like, and the way he'd say it would make more sense than any teacher could get through to me, anything. And I just noticed, like, that in comedy, when I was up there, you know, it's all trying to be funny at first and seeing how you're funny. But when I really let go and just started talking and making sense of a bigger idea, because it's like this, and then it just, you play with, and you see them get, because it is like that.
Yeah.
But they never thought of it like that.
Totally.
And then, but once they get a little, the gig, like, I see them, dude, the laughter tells you what to say.
Totally.
Listen to, like, follow the laughter.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening to Shank. I hope that you're a better person because of it. If you're working on yourself, which you should be, because we've all been through a lot, especially because of COVID, and now we're like entering society, which is an overwhelming and daunting task. One thing that's been helping me is Sunday Scaries CBD. That's right, sundayscaries.com. Enter discount code SHANK, SHENK, for 25% off CBD, which is an amazing discount on CBD. I had a lot of listeners requesting CBD discount codes, so this is for you guys. If you're someone who's new to CBD, I think that Sunday Scaries is the perfect place to start. They make gummies that are really tasty, and they have B12 in them, and also D3. So great for your immune system and your energy levels as well. They have regular gummy bears, and then they have vegan gumdrops, which are incredible. They taste just like Sour Patch Kids. I love them. They also make this unicorn jerky, which is a good way to calm down as well. And all the stuff tastes incredible. They also have a tincture. And I know that they also dropped a few new products for sleep. So make sure you check them out. If you're someone who's suffering from anxiety, I truly can't recommend them enough. sundayscaries.com, discount code SHANK, SHENK. Okay, guys, back to this week's episode of Shank with Mat Edgar. Also, I am wearing a waitress dress. Take it in, friends. Okay. Thanks for watching and listening. Subscribe, rate, review. Back to the episode of Shank. Sunday Scaries. Oh yeah, socks. That's a good point.
And like, I just kind of stopped trying and let it go. It's like this. It's like the fucking, you know, all my jokes are kind of like that now. And a lot of them aren't jokes. A lot of the videos I post are just riffs. Well, and I'm like, I just make them into a clip, like as long as a clip would be. And it seems like it comes to there's a beginning, middle, and end, enough to wrap it up real fast. Or and it's like, shit, I'll never be able to say again, because it was in the context of what was happening there, and it brought it out of me, and I don't know how I could get back into without forcing it, and I don't want to force
that exact moment.
But I learned comedy like that. I learned to like do that and be able to like do that a lot, and just as long as I'm keeping it recording, I'm who knows what kind of gold, you know?
And the good thing about getting those moments, it's like, okay, because that's not material that you're going to use in a special anyway. It's material that comes up in the moment.
My biggest fear with posting material before the pandemic was blowing it, you know? Like, what if I never write anything funny as O'Doul's again?
That's a great joke.
Yeah. What if that's as great as it gets?
But it feels good to release it.
Oh, I mean, it's like to me, it's like
I was constipated with material for a long time. I just recorded something. I can't wait to put out my shit because I'm tired of saying this.
I took a relaxative and stopped giving a fuck.
Yeah.
And I didn't need it that long anymore anyways, and the stuff I came up with after it was way better, way more me, way funnier. Evolved. Yeah, I'm not talking about, why would I even talk about that? I don't drink O'Doul's. It's an observational joke.
Yeah, no,
I'm glad it worked out.
I've been hanging on to this casserole joke for so long. I just recorded it. I'm like, put the casserole joke on the internet.
Put the casserole
and never
on
look fucking back.
Yes.
Never say the casserole joke again. You get so like stuck and in your oh, it has to be perfect, and it's like, yeah, you could keep tinkering this casserole joke for fucking 10 more years,
right? Or
you could just move on to a new joke.
Yeah,
and make it amazing.
And I'm telling you, when you move on to a new joke, you are better for it.
And you're excited to tell it.
It's just
because it's new.
Way more fun.
And when you're having fun, then they have no choice but to respond to you in the moment having fun.
It's contagious. It's contagious. And by the way, they're there because they want it. It's like, don't project. Try not to. It's hard. But like these people, as long as they're there, you know, in late night in the OR, when you're up there and it's like, it's nearing 2 a.m. All the famous comedians, people are like, oh, I was on a show, da da da. I always think that's like not a big deal because by the time I get up, those guys were on hours ago. The crowd so doesn't give a fuck anymore. They saw D'Elia. That's a bad example.
They saw Burr.
But they saw Burr. They saw Sebastian.
They're like, all right, we can go.
Yeah, man. And they're like, yeah, they could just bounce out, but they don't. Most of them do. And a lot of the people that are there are just waiting for their check. And that's cool. But it's my job to turn it into something because it's not a show right now. And that's kind of, to me, the joke always. That cracks me up almost every time. I go up there, it's like, this is what I'm dealing with. Like all those guys got it so easy. I just had to fall. I mean, I get up. I'm having a hard time getting on stage, you know, because there's this crowd leaving out. I'm swimming upstream to the stage. And by the time I get up there, it's kind of a joke that I had to do that. And they're all walking out. And it's just like.
I'm like, what time is it around?
It's almost 2, man. It's like
almost
old.
2. Okay, so I think this is an interesting transition. Don't mind the sound of the backing up truck behind us.
I thought this was like one of them car shows, and I was getting honked at like I'm killing.
Yeah. Okay, back to what I was going to say. Okay, so which is interesting because you're talking about going up late at night at the Comedy Store, which brings me to Brody.
Yeah.
Who was a master at doing that too.
Yep.
Watching him late night was one of my favorite things to do in the world. Because he would perform for 2 people the same way he would perform for a room full of people.
Well, yeah, man. He was that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It's a showmanship. It's like the joke in late night is that it is still the Comedy Store, the grandiose stage. And it is still that. But it's like, obviously, this is done. It's over tonight.
Yeah, it's like showing up to the end of a gangbang.
We're still pretending like it's like at that point the comedians are kind of pretending. That's why I do stand up so like I think I don't want to sound pretentious, but
you're not.
But I feel like my stand up is different than a lot of people's because to me in those situations rather than just try to like, and I'm not saying there's a right way or wrong way. I'm saying the way I did it was a lot of people they had jokes to tell and they needed to, and it wasn't about the late night set. That was a workout set. And then they got the real show at the Improv or they got other actual gigs. And it makes sense. We're all on this journey. Like look at, man. Yeah. We all come at it differently. Everybody's on their own thing. And we used our sets differently. That's cool. For me, it was, I had to find a way of keeping it loose, but taking it serious enough to really do good in it. And like it meant, you know what? That's what it was. It meant a lot to me, maybe more than anybody else in late night. Sometimes I think, and I can't say for anyone, but it meant a lot to me.
Well, you're so passionate about stand-up. You're someone who you're genuinely in love with the craft, which I respect and I get. And I feel like I love the craft too. So it's fun to connect in this way because there's only not everyone wants to talk about stand up and the different ways to approach it. And actually one of like the things that I learned from actually doing Kill Tony was just like figuring out the craft and having this conversation.
Yeah, it's like
having this conversation with people who actually love the craft and they're giving you these tips, and getting those tips is like so valuable because no one else is good. I remember when I started getting tips from comics who had been doing it longer, I felt like really happy because I felt like accepted. Like, oh, you know that I like the craft. Yeah. And that you're giving me advice that's actually like, why isn't everyone giving me this advice?
Right.
And it's like when you get those like nuggets of information from people, even like that's why I felt really close to Brody too, because his approach to stand up was as though he was like a coach.
Well, yeah, every set mattered. You know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. It's like when you go up there, it doesn't matter what you got going on. It's like the common denominator, the silver lining is this room right now.
Totally.
And that is the forefront of my mission. And I also, my spin on it, because I did grow up watching Brody, watching Don Barris, learning how to master this thing that is like this dead crowd, but it's not. But dude, it would be dead, and like Brody it would be like a sports arena. And it's like and he's like, yes, and he's kicking in the air and everybody's clapping and like, and there's a way. And once I knew that, it's like, how can I steer away from it? I have to master that.
And if you can do that, and then it manifests into other things. Like,
right. And what I was saying,
such a skill.
What I was saying is like the way it changed me, and I think it's the way it changes those people that really lean into the late night and not look at. And again, not your approach is your approach. I respect it. I get it. It's different for everyone. But the people that lean into the late night kind of get the big joke of being a comedian to begin with. And the philosophy became like, I'm not the comedian, I'm the joke.
Yeah, it's kind of like Holtzman.
Yes.
You watch him late at night? Watching Holtzman late at night is the funniest shit because he literally does not give a fuck.
No, he really doesn't.
He is up there having fun, saying what he wants to say. He doesn't care about offending you. And it's just, there's something about it that's just so pure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting how you see that in the late night spots.
Yeah.
And you're not going to have that type of energy if you're going up at 10. It's just a different experience. But you don't need it.
But I like to bring that everywhere I go, because I think that opens it up into this guy. I'm talking to every crowd, to them.
Right.
Doesn't matter how big, because I'm like, it's like late night. It's like everyone's an individual in here.
Well, like, if I have a show, I'm doing it. You know how some people are like, how many people are going to be there? I'm like, I don't care if it's 2 people, 3 people.
Yeah.
I need this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's an interesting thing. And I remember starting out and being at mics and just seeing people who could walk into the mic. I'm just starting out, and I would like host a mic at Rock Paper, and people would walk in and they would be able to transform the mic into a funny experience. And when you're a young comic and you see somebody do that, you realize, oh, you can be good even at an open mic.
Yep.
You can like still have magic on stage in an open mic. And if you can make the people at the mic laugh, you can make anyone laugh.
I'm telling you, and I'm just like, that's if you want to know the method, you ask me how I write. It's like I walk around life and I see something, and there's markers of the way, feelings, like the way I feel, like that felt like, you know, like it's something would happen to me and it would either embarrass me or make me mad or it would make me sad. But it's also, when I look at it like outside of myself, it's funny. And I'm like, oh, people are going to laugh, because there's something about laughing at pain, but it's like, you know, if you're on the other side of the pain where it's a joke, everybody's happy for you.
Yeah, totally.
And it's like, now we can laugh at this fucking thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and once you can laugh at it, you take a negative thing and you transform it into a
alchemy.
Positive thing.
It's like you turned it.
True.
We're alchemists.
Sorry, we're magicians.
Yeah, and like
energy magicians.
Yeah, well, mind of the mind. I mean, like, it's all mental, but and we make sense of life. We're just broadcasting this shit. But so like I'd walk around, something would happen. I'm like, oh, and then I'd go like, what's going on? And I pull up, I'd go sign up for a daytime mic, and then I go and I say it in front of comedians, hypercritical, and all of them are thinking about what they're gonna say. You know what I mean? The vibe is not like a show.
Supportive. It's
not like, even that. It's not supportive. They are supportive.
Okay,
again,
you're right.
It sets a tone when you pay $5. Sets a tone in the room.
You keep saying
it's a respect thing. It's respect.
You care.
We're all paying for respect. Yeah, and it's
care.
Like yes.
Otherwise, yeah.
And so what I do is I go up and say it in front of them, and then I could see where it's the things that are funny about it, or where I let loose and I see my boy Foo laughing, or some of the, you know, like some of the guys and girls, and I just go like, okay, and I record it and I listen to it. And next spot I get, which is probably, if not that night, and maybe around the corner, they've been happening more and more since we're coming out of this thing. I go and I just wing it out there, like kind of like how I said it, but there's an actual audience, so it takes better. It's like more than just like the chuckles from the comics. Or even the comics laugh. I could get it, like when I get the actual audience doing it, and it's way more of them than the comics. I'm like, oh, I was onto something. Yeah. And next time, boom, boom, and I do it, and then I'm recording everything. So now I'm watching it later, like, learning on the memory. We were just talking before we started the podcast about how, like, one thing that's really hard for me since I've been back, you know, I'm coming back into this is memorizing
the new jokes.
It's the new jokes, because the memorizing, getting good at memorizing is like a muscle in your brain.
Repetition.
When we got good at it because we're memorizing new jokes all the time, but I hadn't in so long.
It uses a different part of your brain.
So I'm struggling sometimes with new stuff, but I'm getting good at remembering the feeling, you know what I mean? And and I'm watching my tape and I'm getting good at nipping it, but it's just happening, man.
Or I would get so obsessed with saying the words the exact way that I wrote them, but then now I'm just like, what is funny about this? If you remember what's funny, even if you can't remember the exact way you say it, you still can bring people in.
Do you look them in the eye when you perform?
People? Interesting. Not always. Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Can I tell you something?
You think I need to start making eye contact?
If you do, you won't worry about the words as much.
Interesting. That's an interesting question. No one has ever asked me that before. I make eye contact when I'm doing crowd work. I think I could work on making eye contact. Yeah, but when are you the most you? When you're doing crowd work. Yeah, you've let go of the material. Yeah.
Then it's like when I bombed, there was nothing left but me up there, and it's fight or flight. And when I chose to fight, it was the first time I was getting laughs on stage. Yeah. So I knew that was me.
Right.
I knew that was my voice.
Right.
And I'm listening to all of my audio. Let this helicopter pass. Yeah, bring it on. Oh, food?
Food?
Oh, I thought you had a blunt.
Do you have a blunt? We'll order food in a little.
Yeah,
but bring the blunt.
We have 15 more minutes, it looks like.
We do. We have about 15 more minutes. We're gonna I have some other things I want to talk to you about.
Yeah.
Like mushrooms.
Oh, my other favorite thing to talk about.
Mushrooms and comedy.
Yeah.
So when was
they go together?
Yeah, when was the first time you did mushrooms?
In 2011, it was months after I started smoking weed. I was 25 years old.
Where were you?
Thank you, babe. Joshua Tree at a campsite called Jumbo Rock 79.
Whoa. The way that you were able to reference that,
it changed my
Jumbo
life.
Rock
it
79. I'm like, okay.
Changed
what
my
about
life.
it?
It was the first time I ever, we took half an eighth.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody had half an eighth, put it in orange juice. It's a good crew of people that I love and love me. And it was great.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a good set and setting was there. And the dosage, the half an eighth, there's no bullshit. It was weighed out.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a few. And I don't know if I feel it. When I felt it, I felt it.
Right.
And it was the first time going there.
Right.
And the first thing I thought changed my life forever.
What was it?
And the last thing I thought changed my life forever.
And then he hits the blunt and leaves us with a cliffhanger. What are the first and the last things you
immediately?
That was a power move, by the way.
When you look at that hacky thing that happens in cartoons of people eating mushrooms the first time, where they look at their hands and they're like, oh, and they're tripping out.
Yeah.
That was always my idea of it before I ever took them, was that you look like, and they're like, I don't know what that meant ever.
Okay.
But I looked at my hands, and this is when you're in that weird purgatory of tripping, when you don't know if you're tripping or not.
Right.
And I look at my hands, and I'm like, I don't know why, but something told me to look up, and it was like this time of day mattered. It was like the sun was going down. I mean, we were tripping as the sun went down, so the sky was like split in half, night and day.
Okay.
I could see the line clear down the middle.
Okay.
The moon was just popping up, and it felt like it was right over my shoulder.
That's so cool.
And when I looked, it dawned on me that all of existence is just that. All of existence. It is one thing, and we are one. It's all existence as a whole is the one thing that there is. And that's what God this is all like
collective consciousness.
Yeah, this is all, we're all just getting this little peek of the same thing, but we are the same thing.
We're all the same energy, basically.
Yeah, and we're all looking at it out these little fucking cameras.
So it's really interesting because it's just like any type of spirituality I've been able to find has stemmed from psychedelic experiences. I mean,
it's more real than real. And I grew up, my parents or my dad was Christian. So every other weekend, those Sundays were the worst part of the weekend.
Oh yeah. I went to Catholic school.
So yeah, man, I get the other end, and nothing felt more real than that. And that's all I know. And again, it's open for interpretation, and I really don't know. And that's the liberating thing, was like, oh, I'm actually nothing. All that weight I put on myself all the everything. It's like none of that matters at all. And then you come out of that like, what does matter? And it's up to you. And you only have so much room for things to matter. And that's what leads to the last thing I remember on that night. And it was dark. It's probably like, past midnight at this point, and we're still in the full moon. So it's like all the desert's lit up. Nobody has a flashlight. And I was just like, I had this jug of water.
Okay.
And I felt like I was drinking it all night, but it wasn't. It was halfway full all night, and I kept drinking it. And I kept thinking I was going to run out, and I have this weird panic. My water, and like, I still have half of it.
Yeah.
And that as I'm coming down, I kind of, the last time I would have that weird, like, my water, I pulled it up, and it was still halfway, and I'm like, it just dawned on me that the glass is always half full.
I like that.
And that means it's always half full. Like,
totally.
And it's up to you, that little sliver, that's all the freedom you get is what part do you want to focus on?
Totally.
The empty part or the part that's full? So maybe we all have everything we need.
Totally.
And it changed everything.
That's really interesting. Because for me, I know I am someone who has depression. I've been depressed. Yeah. I have a hard time. I'm cynical, jaded. I have a hard time. I had a hard time being positive for a really long time. And now I'm really trying to lean into that. And it completely has transformed my life. And I starting with like gratitude list.
Yep.
I do a gratitude list almost every day. Then I see the things in my life that I have instead of seeing the things that I don't have. And that flips the script.
That's the glass is always half full. And think about it. This is something that's been said for, I don't know how old that saying is. But think about, me and Jerron Horton were talking about, we talked about this years ago on mushrooms. That's what's crazy. Okay. I saw him last night at the store. And we're like, do you remember, because that night got brought up. Like, I still remember a conversation we had. He's like, what? And we started talking about it. And it was like, there was it's interesting when you hear these age-old sayings. Like, you don't question where they come from.
Totally.
But we all know what they mean.
Totally.
But that means people had figured this out before.
Totally.
You could trust it. You could rely on it. It's like the glass is always halfway full. Why would they have been saying that this whole time?
Right. It's all just about perspective and mindset.
Thanks, babe.
Okay, then I want to ask you about aliens.
What about them?
What do you think? What are your thoughts?
These are interesting times with all with the Navy or the military
footage.
Yeah, that's crazy. I think I've seen a lot of UFOs on mushrooms.
Okay.
One crazy thing that happened to me.
Yeah.
So me, Pete, PDC.
Okay, love
Pete. Brett Erickson.
Okay.
And Sandro Iocolano.
Love Sandro. What a fun crew.
We're in Joshua Tree.
Okay.
And we had been tripping for hours.
Okay.
All I remember at this point is we've been laughing until we cry. Same trip. I mean, that's what we eat. You all start tripping. We laugh hard, and then we walk away. We find ourselves, come back, laugh hard again, go out, find more. And we're on this. For some reason, we all had come back together. It's late in the night. We've been tripping, but we're still going strong.
Right.
We all get back together, and Sandro has no shirt on. And I'm just like that. And it's nighttime, and we're in the desert. It's beautiful. It was an especially dark night. Usually, I always recommend going there on a full moon because you just see everything, and it's safer,
so
and it's
fun.
just beautiful. It looks like you're on a different planet.
It does.
But we went there on a night when I don't even know if there was moon. Or maybe the moon was going to come out later. Sometimes you do that because sometimes it'll pop out at 10 p.m. and it's like the night starts then.
Hey, girl.
Yeah, well, what up? Oh, you guys tripping? I'm sorry I'm late.
Thanks for showing up, bitch.
So I see something in the sky. And now I have this weird freakish. This is outside of mushrooms. This has been my whole life. I have ADD really bad. You talk about mental illness. I was diagnosed with ADHD at 5. They put me on Ritalin until I was in high school, and they put me on Zoloft because they saw I had depression, anxiety, and I kicked all that shit at 21. And I started stand up. Whoa, quinkadink.
Were you ever on Adderall?
Yeah, I tried that for a week, and I choked a kid out, and then they suspended me, and then I had to go back to Ritalin. They changed my meth.
You choked a kid out.
Yeah, yeah.
The person I was on Adderall was terrible.
Right. I was aggressive.
Like the worst version of
me.
And I've turned into a raging cunt.
Dude, I have friends that I love that take Adderall. I'm like, fuck you, dude. Like, they're just dicks.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it works for some people, to each his own. But what was my point? Oh, so this weird thing I've always had with my ADD is that I see satellites every night, anytime. I could show you a satellite.
Okay.
Once it gets dark, if we're here, I'll show you a satellite. I promise you.
Okay.
Within seconds of me looking.
Okay.
It's a mutant power I have.
Well, that's interesting because they say ADD people, like, they'll pay attention to everything.
I just see I could just spot a bump in the night, like, really well.
Okay.
I could prove it. I could literally prove it.
Okay.
So usually satellites only happen between like sunset and sunrise.
Okay.
Because it's the reflection of the sun is what you're seeing. There's no lights on a satellite.
Okay.
So that's why you could see them dim and it's like where they're facing the sun. All right.
Okay.
So it's way past any kind of satellite hour, but I see something moving. But in my head, I always go satellite. And I'm looking at it and I notice a satellite's one way. It just goes.
Right.
There's no change of trajectory. It just goes across the sky, whatever way it was going. It's gravity. It's not being. There's no what's the word?
Propeller?
Yeah, propeller.
I don't know.
It's when something shoots like a jet, like like something like proportion.
Project.
It doesn't matter. Fuck. Somebody's gonna comment. It's the shit that Bob Lazar knows about. Anyway.
I'm sure people who are listening or watching know.
No, I know.
Comment
You're gonna
below.
get in the comment. What am I trying to say?
Sound off below.
So anyways, it's going and it looks like a
Where
satellite.
Where are you when this is happening?
This is Joshua Tree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in Joshua Tree, the sky is so clear.
Right.
Too.
So I'm looking at this thing go.
Yeah.
And it stops. And that caught my eye.
Yeah.
Like, I was already watching it, and then I was still
down?
like, it's fun to be on mushrooms watching a satellite. I'm like, dope.
Yeah,
I've never seen it like this. I'm thinking insane shit.
Yeah.
And then it stops, and I'm like, I jolt. Like, I jolted for a second, and I'm just looking at it. At this point, I see all the guys. We're all around.
Yeah.
But we're not talking. We're all kind of, but we're all within, like, we're all here together.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't want to say anything yet because I still didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just kind of breaking it in. And then it just starts moving a different way.
Yes.
And
I've seen this shit before.
And I'm like, and here's the thing. Like, an airplane, all airplanes have, like, they're on the lights that flash are on time. It's always on time. There's nothing off time.
Interesting.
So it's like a federal regulation. You have to have a light like that on your aircraft.
Okay.
So, like, this thing didn't have any of that, and it would dim a little bit. And I could just almost see the shape of it without light moving, and then it would get super bright.
Interesting.
Like, so bright, almost hurt your eyes. And anyways, so I'm watching it, and it's going, and I'm getting ready to say something to like, guys, look at this. Right before I say it, Pete's like, "What's that?" And he's looking at it. And then Brett looks at it, and he's like, "Whoa!" And we all saw it.
Right, and there's something when you have, like, that makes you feel better when it's a collective experience, and you're like, okay, we're all thinking this is
all
insane.
Audibly, like, gasping at moves that it's making, like, whoa, like, while it's happening. So we know we're all watching the same thing at the same time.
Totally.
And none of us can make sense of what it is. We're all on mushrooms, so there's that context. And then that was that. And we still talk about it, like, when it comes up. But I don't know if I don't know what that was, but I see that. I see that on mushrooms now. Like, I've seen that since. I don't know what to make of it. So that's my... I love talking aliens, but I don't know. The truth is, I don't know.
Do you find mushrooms to be funny?
The
funny drug.
You
realize that everything's like a cosmic joke.
Yes.
Like, you're like, there's a huge cosmic joke.
Yeah.
Like, God has, like, a corny sense of humor even sometimes.
And that, like, joke is, to me, like, that's the nirvana. Like, you cry, and you can't even it's like, that's love.
Totally.
It's the highest. It's the most. It's like the physical form of love is laughter. It's like you can't even contain it. Love is like such an idea, and it does get physical reactions sometimes, but not like when you're laughing. That's love at its. You can't even contain it. Like, your body's convulsing over it, and Yeah, I picked that up when I was a kid, and I knew I was gonna grow up and get in the business of tinkering with that shit.
Really? Well, do you remember like as a kid really enjoying making people laugh?
Yeah, school.
Me too. School, yeah.
Class. I was just great.
I used to hang out with the boys, and we would make weird jokes.
Damn.
Like it was me and like these like 3 fat guys. We used to like sit next to each other because I was kind of fat too.
Yeah.
And that's how I got funny, because we would just like joke. Like they'd put some movie on, we'd make fun of it the whole time. Like when a movie was on was my time to shine with commentary.
I think that comedians are people that put more emphasis in that part of life, is like laughing mattered.
Yeah, like laughing and
fun. I mean, it is fun. And you know what? Like, I don't know if it works for everybody. Like, comedy hack in my brain is like when it does come to writing. If I actually had to think about something funny, like if there's a writing assignment, so like I have to like help roast. Like you know that you had to roast. Great. It's like I to buckle down. I kind of just do that. Like I follow the fun.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's fun about it? Don't get funny. Funny is like also kind of an expectation too, right? And funny is like a context. Like take the why out of it and just follow fun. It's way more lax.
Like silly.
And if you're funny, the fun is funny. I promise you. And then it's just like, you just thought of something funny. So you asked, so like a roast joke or like anything I had to write a joke about, I'm like, what's fun? What's the fun? What's like the fun thing to say? Yeah. And it's always funny.
And sometimes I even break it down to words. Like, what's a funnier word?
Right.
Like, because some words are just instinctively funnier than other words. That's like something,
honestly, it's like we all learn things at different times. Like, that's more of a newer thing in my repertoire of like comedy.
That's
like,
one of my favorite things to tinker with.
What's a funnier word? Because that matters. I used to think like, whatever was the first word I thought, and that's like so false because it's just like your own. It's like not as connective.
It's so weird because sometimes I find something that I think is just funny, like its presence is just funny to me, like casserole. Yeah, and I'm like, why is that so funny to me? It's just a funny word.
You gotta go.
It's a funny word. You don't hear people talking about it much, or like Rolodex. Like it's almost like an autistic thing where it's like I don't know, where it's like I'm just focusing on like, is this word funny? Is this word not funny? Is this word funny?
I can't remember
fixated.
Who. I forget who I overheard talking about. Like, no, that's a funnier word. Like a funnier comedian had said it somewhere. Like an older, funnier comedian. And I was like, that matters.
Yeah,
that does matter. Like the word does matter. Like, because I'm so lax on words. Well, I mean, I know they matter, but like, and I totally know they matter. But it's like more of a feeling. You know, I try not to get stuck.
Totally.
That's why you look them in the eyes and you kind of know what they need. Yeah. Like how to communicate to them. As long as you're keeping time.
Yeah.
And that's like a hard thing. You gotta learn how to keep your rhythm.
This was the craziest shit. I'm gonna wrap up with this and then we'll tell people where to find you and plug your album as well.
Fuck yeah.
I just did a set at the Comedy Store and I performed over music.
Oh shit, I did that too.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, you did tiny. I did something set. Else. That's dope. And so, I want to do that.
But you should definitely do it. But so it took me a second I was like trying to keep timing in my head of the jokes. And then there was also music. And I was like, my brain is going to explode. It ended up working. Yeah. But the entire time I was like, oh, wow. It's the same feeling as laughter. Yeah. It's just a different thing because my brain, music, it took me like a few times.
You in comedy if you're doing live stand-up, you've got to be musical.
You have to.
You have to be able to keep time. There's a metronome that starts the second your feet touch the stage.
Totally.
Or whatever your beat is, man, and you find your rhythm. That's part of finding your voice. That's what it really means. And once you find your rhythm, you just hop on that and it all gets a lot easier. Even the writing. That's how you're able to stream of conscious and come up with the shit there and really riff and go into places you can never get to. Like I always try to tell the joke you can't write. I can't even write it. So I have to. Yeah, man.
And that's a joke you have to tell.
Yep.
Because if you can't write it, that means it's like a nut you gotta crack. You're like, I gotta figure out how to say this.
It's at that point, it's like, to me, it's like this. It's like this divine piece of work. Yeah, if you could get. Like you couldn't even do it. It took circumstance, it took everyone. And I never think, and we'll wrap it up here. The reason why it's so important to be humble is because in front of the audience, especially, is because you don't kill alone. It's all of us.
Yeah, totally.
We're all getting it,
it's and we're
making this noise happen, and we're doing it. We're laughing. We're having the fun. It takes all of us, everybody in the room, every pained soul in there.
Totally.
Down to the piano player. It's like everybody matters.
The sound guy.
The sound guy, the guy who booked it. Everybody matters. Door guys.
Love that. Okay, so you also have an album.
Yep.
It's called Take the L.
Take the L.
Where can people find it?
Everywhere. You could get it on Spotify. You could get it on Apple Music. I moved to New York for a few months to make it. It's like basically a New York. It's kind of like a crowd work, like hybrid album. It's like a lot of crowd. It's like I do a lot of New York crowd work. It was like my time in New York to Take the L. I mean, it was fucking
cool. I'm gonna link to it in the description of this episode so people can just easily click and listen. Because you're one of my favorite comedians to watch and listen to. I'm so glad you finally came on the podcast.
I'm so glad.
Where can people find you on Instagram and Twitter?
So at Mat Edgar. Matt has one T in it, and go to my Instagram is where I put out all my stand up.
And there's a ton of clips.
Yep. And I make more every week. So I release at least one a week. I'm going to start releasing 2 once we start getting spots. I'm making these in real time. I'm doing my spots, slapping the subtitles, making the banners, doing all the shit. And I put them up. And they'll be there. You could believe it. Every week you'll at least get one new one. And as we get more spots, we'll see what we do.
Yes. Thank you for coming on. And thank you guys so much for listening to and watching another episode of Shank. Subscribe, rate, review, support the podcast, buy merch in the link in the description of this episode. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching another episode of Shank. Bye.